We cannot be more sensitive to pleasure without being more sensitive to pain. Life exists only at this very moment, and in this moment it is infinite and eternal, for the present moment is infinitely small. Before we can measure it, it has gone, and yet it exists forever. There will always be suffering. But we must not suffer over the suffering. Every individual is a unique manifestation of the whole, as every branch is a particular outreaching of the tree. The only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. But I'll tell you what hermits realize. If you go off into a far, far forest and get very quiet, you'll come to understand that you're connected with everything. When you get free from certain fixed concepts of the way the world is, you find it is far more subtle, and far more miraculous, than you thought it was. To have faith is to trust yourself to the water. When you swim you don't grab hold of the water, because if you do you will sink and drown. Instead you relax, and float. There is always something taboo, something repressed, unadmitted, or just glimpsed quickly out of the corner of one's eye because a direct look is too unsettling. Taboos lie within taboos, like the skin of an onion. No valid plans for the future can be made by those who have no capacity for living now. I have realized that the past and future are real illusions, that they exist in the present, which is what there is and all there is. This is the real secret of life, to be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now. And instead of calling it work, realize it is play. If you really understand Zen, you can use any book. You could use the Bible. You could use Alice in Wonderland. You could use the dictionary, because the sound of the rain needs no translation. Try to imagine what it will be like to go to sleep and never wake up. Now try to imagine what it was like to wake up having never gone to sleep. Only words and conventions can isolate us from the entirely undefinable something which is everything. Meditation is the discovery that the point of life is always arrived at in the immediate moment. The sense of wrong is simply failure to see where something fits into a pattern, to be confused as to the hierarchical level upon which an event belongs. The only Zen you'll find on mountain tops is the Zen you bring up there with you. You didn't come into this world. You came out of it, like a wave from the ocean. You are not a stranger here. To be free from convention is not to spurn it but not to be deceived by it. The more we struggle for life, as pleasure, the more we are actually killing what we love. Everyone has love, but it can only come out when he is convinced of the impossibility and the frustration of trying to love himself. Life and love generate effort, but effort will not generate them. Faith in life, in other people, and in oneself, is the attitude of allowing the spontaneous to be spontaneous, in its own way and in its own time. Parts exist only for purposes of figuring and describing, and as we figure the world out we become confused if we do not remember this all the time. Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone. What you are basically, deep, deep down, far, far in, is simply the fabric and structure of existence itself. Your body does not eliminate poisons by knowing their names. To try to control fear or depression or boredom by calling them names is to resort to superstition of trust in curses and invocations. It is so easy to see why this does not work. Obviously, we try to know, name, and define fear in order to make it objective, that is, separate from I. The problem comes up because we ask the question in the wrong way. We supposed that solids were one thing and space quite another, or just nothing whatever. Then it appeared that space was no mere nothing, because solids couldn't do without it. But the mistake in the beginning was to think of solids and space as two different things, instead of as two aspects of the same thing. The point is that they are different but inseparable, like the front end and the rear end of a cat. Cut them apart, and the cat dies. Total situations are, therefore, patterns in time as much as patterns in space. There was never a time when the world began, because it goes round and round like a circle, and there is no place on a circle where it begins. Look at my watch, which tells the time, it goes round, and so the world repeats itself again and again.